the prices are moving faster now than they've ever moved before for me. And on a wholesale level, these prices they can't keep up because we're dropping. We're dropping very fast right now on the wholesale level, and it's a portion of what the car market normally does. We're getting back to seasonality in the car market, whereas we went through tax season, February, March. Wholesale prices go to the moon. They rip because people get tax checks back. They go buy cars, and wholesale prices. I mean, car dealers react. So if they sell a bunch of cars, they rush to the auction. They spend a lot of money, and then after that, they get all this inventory.
Welcome to Wealthion. I'm your host, Andrew Brill. When is the right time to purchase a used car, and exactly how do you go about it? We'll speak to an expert about all of that and more right now. I'd like to welcome Brandon to Wealthion. Brandon is a used car dealer and also a YouTube sensation. He created Car Questions Answered to make sure you don't get taken advantage of when buying a used car. Brandon, welcome to Wealthion, and thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's always great to be able to come and just talk about something that's maybe not all intensive with the car market, but I enjoy doing these kind of interviews like this. It's very fun.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, how you got into the used car market.
Yeah, so about 13 years ago, I was going to school for engineering and hated it. Hated being in school. College was not for me. So looking for any excuse ever to not go to class. So just happened to be one Wednesday night, my grandfather, who was a used car dealer at the time, was going to a used car dealer auction, said, okay, well, let me come help you because I don't have anything to do tonight, even though I had class. But I went with him and just immediately fell in love. I mean, all the car smells, the cars that are around this. And this was a small, like country little car auction. They were only running probably 50, 75 cars a week. But just really fell in love with the atmosphere and started helping him out, just putting cars online because small used car dealers were not doing that at the time. And this is at a time that the internet was doing real good. But the car market is behind as far as technology goes always. And I put some cars online for him, and he would typically sell only like one or two a week, and sold like 5 of them for him the next day. And I figured, you know what? I can do this. So I had a little sports car at the time. I sold it and then bought an $800 car for myself and used the rest of the money to start buying and flipping cars. And the rest was is history. I fell in love with the business.
Talk to me about used versus new cars. I mean, obviously, you're in the used car market, but you're a reputable guy. You're obviously here on the internet, making sure that people don't get ripped off, because I would imagine there's bad actors out there. But what's the difference between buying a used car and buying a used car?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing is, I mean, obviously new is new, but the one of the big issues that we're seeing right now is you have to go through a dealer either way, and there's been a lot of outcry lately, especially over the last 3.5 years, because dealers have really gouged people. They have added market adjustments, things like this that people want to go straight to the manufacturer. But the way that the system's set up, it's not really going to be the case unless you're looking at automakers that are entering the market that never touch the dealer space, like a Tesla. But you're seeing that all these other manufacturers, they have to go through the dealer system. So either way, if you're buying a new or a used car, you still have to go through a dealer. Now, on the used side, you have a little bit more options because you can go through an individual. You can go to public auctions yourself. But in most cases, people are buying a car from a dealer. And on the used car side, I mean, you're not getting a new product, so there's a lot of other things that you have to actually check before you buy a used car, because there's a whole course of just problems that can arise with the cars being used, how it was maintained before, if it's even a safe car to drive right now. So you're dealing with two different animals completely when you're thinking about buying a new car versus buying a used car.
And you can buy a used car from a dealer. Brandon, in your expertise, is certified pre-owned worth it? Or can I come to a used car dealer like you and say, hey, look, you know what? Have you checked this car out?
So with certified used, there are a couple pros and I would say probably more cons to it. I would say in my experience, the certified sticker that you're getting on these cars is not worth the extra money that you're going to pay. The certified car is going to be a lot more expensive, but what you get for that money that you're paying, a lot of times you'll have some kind of extra warranty on the car, and then you'll have this basically checklist that the dealer would have done on this car to make it certified. But all this certified inspection stuff is always done, almost always in-house. So it's their own techs that are doing this stuff. And really it boils down to a little sticker, because what they should be doing is really checking this car out before they're selling it, as much as they're going to check out a certified car anyway. In my opinion, I think you can do these checks on a used car yourself if you have the right kind of knowledge to be able to do it. But I mean, you're paying more money, but you're also usually getting a little bit more of a warranty on that car too. So it's in my opinion, it's not, but there'll be a lot of people that argue that it is, just for the added security that they feel like they're getting from the certified car.
I just bought my son a car. I bought a certified pre-owned a Honda Civic, and a two-door coupe, 2020, had 19,000 miles on it. So, it seemed like a good deal. So now I feel like after talking to you, I got ripped off, but yeah, the car is bought. So I should have come to you first. But how do I get to a used car dealer and know that they're reputable? Like I would come to you, and I'm assuming that you checked out the car. Is there a way to check out a used car dealer and say, okay, you know what? This guy isn't. Look, you have to be. I have to be honest. The used car dealers have there's a negative connotation to them.
Yep.
But I'm sure that there's plenty reputable ones out there. How do you find the reputable ones?
So the sad part about this is there's no list out there. There's no way to know if a dealer is a good dealer or not. You can do some research. You can look at Google reviews, but a lot of times Google reviews can be fabricated. So a lot of the times, if a dealer wants to spend time covering up that they're a bad dealer, they can be successful doing this. So a lot of it's going to boil down to your own research and being able to figure out if that particular car that you're trying to buy off this used car dealer lot is actually a good car. And then if you are actually getting a fair price when everything's said and done, when you get the out the door price. So my biggest advice whenever I'm talking to someone who wants to buy a used car is make sure before you even go looking for a car, you find a mechanic first. So there's another problem though. It's hard to find an honest mechanic, but I would say it's probably easier to find an honest mechanic than it is to find a good dealer. And I think you can use Google reviews a little bit more on the mechanic side than you can on the dealer side. So I would do your research, find a small mom and pop place, nowhere that's got multiple locations, no retail mechanics. I don't want you using them because they've got big locations and they've got many locations and they have to figure out a way to pay for all those locations. Whereas a mom and pop small shop that's got just one location, family owned, something like that, they're usually trying to do right by their customer because that's how they gain more customers. So I would rather you go somewhere like that, get the car checked out before you purchase it, and then you can decide if the price is fair after you have your mechanic go ahead and check off on that car. So that's my biggest advice. Maybe don't try to find a good dealer, just try to find a good car at a good price. And if that dealer just happens to have it, they can be a shady dealer or not. And as long as you do your due diligence, you can even buy a car from a shady dealer and still get a good deal and still get a good car as long as you do your homework on it before you buy it.
So I know that you go to a ton of car auctions. It's where you get your cars. You check out, and you have a mechanic, I think, in your family that checks out all your cars as well. So you do the due diligence for the people. But I would assume some people who come to your used car lot have their own mechanic that checks out the car as well.
Yep, and we actually recommend that. So our biggest thing is when a customer comes in and they want to buy a car, my sales staff, one of the first things they say, okay, well, we would like you to go get it checked out by your mechanic before you buy it from us. We want you to know exactly what you're buying before you buy it from us. So the cars that we sell, we're our niche, our specialization is we sell cars $5,000 and under. So what that brings on is the customers that we have is they have money for the car and really not much else. And this is an underserved place in the car market, and there's not a lot of dealers like us that can do this. And one reason why we were able to do this, like you said earlier, is that I have a mechanic on staff. So a lot of the little problems that are going to nickel and dime a lot of dealers, we can handle those here at my shop. And what I feel like is a big benefit for our consumers, they're able to buy an A to B car. But when you're buying a car that's under $5,000, something's going to be wrong with it. It's a used car and it's under $5,000. So we want to make sure that we can check all the boxes from our side and find out what's wrong with the car and be able to let the customer know what's wrong with that car before they buy it. But we run through 75, 80, sometimes 100 cars in a month. And we're not going to be able to catch everything. So it's very important to us that that a customer knows exactly what they're getting into it before they purchase the car from us. So that's one of my biggest recommendations, whether that's a customer walking into my shop or me giving advice on YouTube. Make sure you have your mechanic check out a used car before you buy it.
Do sites like Carfax and KBB help you at all in selling a car?
So we run a Carfax on every one of our cars. The big reason that we do it is because we're under the guidelines of the DMV in North Carolina where we are. So if we sell a car that has a salvage title and we didn't know about it, then we can get in a lot of trouble from our DMV. So we make sure that we know any kind of brands that are on the car before, whether it's theft, salvage, flood, anything like that. Now, the auctions that we go to, they are supposed to let us know this information before the car even goes through the lane. But I mean, it can fall through the cracks. A lot of these auctions, they don't run Carfaxes on the car. They run something, they run another kind of history report, which I feel like is not as in depth as Carfax. So sometimes things can slip through the cracks, and we can end up with a car that's a salvage title, but we bought it as a clean vehicle at the auction. And in those cases, when we find it out, when we run our Carfax, when we get it back to the shop to get it into our systems, into our inventory, then we have the option to take that car back to the auction and get our money back. But that's the Carfax, I think, is a good tool, especially if you know exactly the car that you want to buy, you know it's good mechanically, and then you know that you're getting a good price. At that point, then I would run a Carfax on a car, because they are expensive for just the retail customer. I think it's like probably $30-$40 a pop. But I do think it's a good tool, but only to run it when you know that that's the car you want to buy. And that's just the last step before you buy the car, to run one of those. As far as KBB goes, any kind of pricing mechanism that's out there is going to be wrong, especially right now, because the market is moving faster right now than really I've been doing this for 13 years. The prices are moving faster now than they've ever moved before for me. And on a wholesale level, these prices, they can't keep up, because we're dropping. We're dropping very fast right now on the wholesale level, and it's a portion of what the car market normally does. We're getting back to seasonality in the car market, whereas we went through tax season, February, March. Wholesale prices go to the moon. They rip, because people get tax checks back. They go buy cars, and wholesale prices, I mean, car dealers react. So if they sell a bunch of cars, they rush to the auction, they spend a lot of money. And then after that, they get all this inventory, and as soon as the money gets here, it goes away, because people spend their tax refunds who are going to buy cars. They have no more money to spend. Dealer lots get loaded up. And now we're in that phase right here where prices are really tanking on the wholesale level, because a lot of these dealers are overwhelmed with their inventory and they can't sell it. And on top of that, we're having just what's going on in the economy right now. I don't know if we want to get into that at all, but people are spending less money. Inflation is out of hand, and they just aren't able to buy cars right now. And prices on used vehicles, even though they're going down, are still way overinflated of where they should be right now. So you're having basically this perfect storm that's hitting car dealers right now, where okay, people have less money, they pay too much for their cars, they have too much inventory, their floor plans, which is their credit that they use to borrow money against these cars that they have on their lot, that interest rate is high. So everything is hitting these car dealers right now and is setting up for really a disaster that a lot of car dealers are feeling right this moment.
So it's interesting you talk about the economy and the tax checks. I never realized that people get their tax refund, and a lot of people go out and will buy a car with some of that money. Is there a best time to buy a car? I mean, obviously, you guys know, okay, tax season, I'm going to jack up my prices slightly, or some dealers will jack up their prices slightly. Is there a better time to buy a car than not?
Yeah, I'll correct you real quick. No, we do not jack up our prices during tax time. We buy a lot more cars going into tax time, and then we sell them at the same rates that we would typically all year, and we just sell more cars. Just to give you an example, so if we're going to average like 70 cars a month that we do here, we might sell 125 plus cars just in February. So that's the difference. We just sell a lot more cars, or people that come and spend money. And even at car dealerships that sell cars that are higher in than us, if they sell like that $15,000, $20,000 range, people have money for the down payment. So even that range gets hit during tax time because people are just spending money. But to go back to your question, the best time to buy a car during the year is the end of the year. So around the holiday season, when people are spending money on other things other than cars, they're not buying cars. So that means car dealers need to move inventory, and prices are the lowest all year that they're going to be right at the very end of the year.
I like the fact that you talked about the economy, interest rates. How does that affect you? Do you go out and borrow money to buy inventory? And I would assume you buy less, or I would assume some car dealers do. New car dealers certainly do. They borrow that money and they have to sell the cars in order to pay back those loans. But how does that affect you and car dealers?
So most used car dealers, what they do is actually borrow money to be able to buy their inventory. They don't have any cash. They're basically living paycheck to paycheck. And a lot of people don't know this, but I mean, most car dealers do not own their inventory. They finance it through a bank, and that's not the way I operate. I've always run cash. I've never taken on any debt. I don't like debt. I've grown my business organically. Every car that we have, we own, we paid cash for. That's just not how most used car dealers run. So as far as interest rates, how it has affected those car dealers that have borrowed money on their vehicles, their interest rates have gone up like crazy over the last 3 years. This is no secret. We know this. Fed has pumped rates. And what this has meant for a lot of these car dealers is, okay, well, if as time goes on and as they're not able to sell cars, they're putting more money into each one of these vehicles. So we're having it's an interesting time period as a car dealer, because over the last 3 years, car prices have gone up and up and up and up, but so have interest rates. They've gone up and up and up and up. But now we're getting to a place where, okay, interest rates have still gone up, but car values are going down. So we're seeing this tipping point where, as interest rates have stayed high and car dealers can't sell their cars, they keep on adding into what they have into the car, but their car values going down. So they're actually crossing where a lot of these car dealers are underwater on a lot of their vehicles. And what's interesting about this is that if they can't sell these cars in a timely manner, and their floor plan companies where they're borrowing money see some kind of problem, then car dealers can actually have their cars repossessed from them. And we're starting to see a lot more of that pop up at auctions, where I can see the seller on a lot of these cars, and some of them will just say floor plan. And what that means is the floor plan company went to this car dealer lot, and I've talked to some floor plan reps, and they said, we go and we help these dealers sell their cars. And what that means is they go grab these cars off of these dealers' lots, they take them to auction, whatever they bring, they sell them, and then that dealer is on the hook for the difference. And there's going to be a difference. They're going to bring less money now than what they paid for them 2-3 months ago. And here's the problem: those dealers never had that money to begin with. So there's something I like to say a lot. And if this happens, then their floor plans will get decreased or just go away altogether. And at that point, they have no money to buy cars. If you can't buy cars, you can't sell cars. You can't sell cars, you can't make any money. If you can't make money, why are you even in business? So we've seen quite a few car dealers go out of business for this very reason.
Does that happen with new cars, new car dealers as well? You see all these ads about, oh, these dealers couldn't sell these cars, huge discounts, auctions. Do you find that at some auctions you're finding new cars because the dealer couldn't get rid of them, or does the actual manufacturer come and take them back?
No, so what will happen is that a lot of these new car dealers, if they can't move their vehicles to get them off their floor plan, they can do a couple things. They can send them to auction, and they'll sell them. So I'll see cars pop up at auction. Like I've seen a ton of Jeep Grand Cherokees that have like 200 miles on them pop up at these auctions, and they sell them. They're still sold as brand new cars. They're selling through auction, so they've never been titled to an actual retail customer. So they can transfer that to another dealer, and then at that point, a used car dealer can then sell a brand new car to a vehicle. I mean, to a customer. That does happen. Another thing they can do is they can do swaps between lots. So a lot of dealer groups have multi dealerships. They'll have Toyota, they'll have Honda, they'll have Ford, they'll have all the manufacturers. They'll have dealerships through all of them. So what they can do is they can actually move one from the Ford dealership over to the Toyota dealership, and that's what we're seeing a lot when I'm going to a lot of these dealerships and looking at cars. They're selling them as used, but they only have 500 miles on them. So this is what's happening a lot, where they can get them off their floor plan. There's another lever that they can pull. They can actually move them into their service loaner fleet. So when you go get your car fixed, and it's going to take a day, 2 days, they give you a loaner car. And a lot of times those loaner cars were brand new cars. And this is a way for a dealership to, one, move a car off of their floor plan, and two, show as a sale, because these allocations that they get, how they get them is from turning and burning these cars. So it's a turn and earn system, basically. So once they are able to sell a certain number of cars or whatever, then they get allocated some more cars. So if a dealer wants new allocations, they have to sell cars. If they can't sell cars, they have to get resourceful. And there are a few levers that they can pull, just like I'm talking about here.
Can you finance a used car? Do you deal with financing and companies that can finance it, or do most of your customers come in and they have cash and they're going to pay cash?
So I'll say most of my customers, because it's 5,000 and under, most of my customers are going to pay cash. Now, when I say cash, it's not hard cash. They pay the full amount. They'll use a debit, credit card, something like that, or bring a cashier's check. But there have been occurrences where they'll go to their credit union and they'll borrow the money to get that. It's pretty rare for my customer to be able to do that. But for the next tier up, that $5,000 to $15,000 range, yeah, most of them are financed. But I would say that it's very odd for us to be able to do the kind of business that we do, just because our cars are so cheap. I'm supposed to say affordable. They're cheap cars, right? So yeah, I don't want to sugarcoat anything. I mean, I'm trying to be as transparent as I can be. We sell cheap cars, but so that $5,000 to $15,000 range, most of their cars are actually financed, and they can do it a couple different ways. Best way is a credit union or their bank to be able to get the better interest rate. But what a lot of them do is what's called buy here, pay here. And this is where the dealership holds their own note. And so they'll go in, and this is a very predatory way of lending. And a lot of times that dealership, that used car dealership that's selling that car, they're going to get maximum value on that car, and they're going to get the maximum interest rate that they can charge in their state. I know here in North Carolina, it's somewhere around like 25% that they can charge. So guess what? They're charging it.
Wow. And I appreciate your honesty. And I know if you go to carquestionsanswered.com on YouTube, actually Car Questions Answered on YouTube, you don't give your last name, you don't give your dealership, because you're here to actually help customers. And I appreciate your honesty. The used car market, like we talked about, has a negative connotation, but you're trying to change all that. So I appreciate the information. So way back 13 years ago when you were helping your grandfather, you started putting cars online, and I'm going to assume you're one of the first to do that. You obviously helped out his business. It helps out your business. Do place online dealers like uh, CarMax, Carvana, all those places, does that eat into your maybe not into your business because you're selling cars on the lower end, but does that help or does that hurt used car business?
So as far as like CarMax is concerned, they'll take in a bunch of cars, and the cars that they don't want, they'll send into auction. They'll put into used inventory, and then they run auctions. So I can go to a CarMax auction. I can buy cars from there. So on that aspect, I feel like they help other car dealers because it's just another avenue for us to be able to buy cars. As far as Carvana is concerned, I feel like if they were doing their business well, it would eventually hurt a lot of used car dealers. But we've seen that. I mean, money's hard to make doing it at that scale and with used cars. So if someone comes in and is able to do the Carvana model the correct way, then I think it really will change the way that a lot of used cars are bought. Now, Carvana, I mean, the technology and everything, the ease of it, a lot of people swear by it and they want to use it, but we've seen that it's not crazy profitable yet. So it's going to be tough for a corporation to be able to come in and be able to really hammer it down. And it's just an element of every used car is different. So it's very tough to scale used car buying and selling just because every car has been maintained a different way. Every used car is going to have a different defect. Every used car is going to have some kind of different thing. So it's really hard to put a corporate number on cars like that. And it takes a lot of manpower to be able to actually check out these cars to know what the values of them are. So I'm interested to see what happens, and something's going to happen in the near future to see how used car buying is going to look like. I don't think Carvana is doing it well right now, but I think that they're opening the door for another player that will do it well to step in.
So you talked about a salvage title, repossessions. Talk to me about a salvage title because I was actually looking at a 2019 Lexus and I was a little nervous about the salvage title. Is there a reason to be nervous about this? I know we can register the car. I know you can get a title that's called a salvage title. Is this
Yep.
something that we should stay away from or be nervous about?
So I would say yes and no. So with a salvage title, it means that the car has been wrecked, and then it's been wrecked significantly, and then probably put back together, hopefully professionally. So here's the problem with the salvage title or a car that's been wrecked. You could have it that maybe just the one of the panels of the car or whatever has been hit, but the insurance company deems that so expensive versus the value of the car that instead of fixing it, instead of paying the money to fix it, they just total it out. They make it a salvage vehicle. So in those cases, you can have good mechanics, good body shop, a good body shop that actually can put the car together professionally, where it's safe, it's sound, and everything. And in that scenario, you're going to get a car, and you're going to get a car at a very steep discount. The problem is the average consumer is not going to know whether the car was fixed correctly, if anything was done structurally to the car, because it's very difficult to know if a car has had some kind of structural damage. What we've seen as far as cars that I've looked at is, okay, there could be a little bump up just on the rear of a car, it not even be salvaged, and that has jarred something loose in the actual frame. It has actually bent the frame of the car, and the customer is none the wiser. So I say yes and no to this, just depending on the expertise level of the consumer that's looking at this, or the level of someone else to check this car out for the consumer. So I would say for the average consumer, I would stay away from a salvage car. But for someone who knows what they're looking at, you can get a really good deal on a salvage title car.
Now, Brandon, given the economy the way it is, the personal debt rising the way it is, have you seen a lot more repos than you have in the past?
Yeah, so we are starting, and I talk about this a lot on my channel, and actually go to the auctions, and I show this on my channel. But we have seen repos rise greatly at these auctions, and it started. It started, I would say, about 12 months ago is when I started to see the increase. I went to some bigger auctions where cars from Wells Fargo, Capital One, a lot of these big banks started to pop up and pop up. It seemed like all at the same time about what probably 8, 9, 10 months ago. Even talking to a lot of the auction workers, they would say the 6 months prior to that, they had no repos. And then just all of a sudden, we had cars from a lot of these big banks just really flooding these auctions. And as far as some of the smaller auctions that I go to, those are the ones I'm able to actually show on my channel. Those ones I can film at. But I see a lot of buy here, pay here dealers, these ones that hold their own notes. What they'll do is they'll sell a car, customer missed a couple payments, they'll pick it up, they'll take it to auction, they'll dump it. We're seeing many more cars in those repo lanes than we've seen in a very long time. At least in my 13 years of doing things, this is the most repos that I've seen come through the auction lanes since I've been in business.
In preparing for this interview, I'm here in New York, so I looked for car auctions. There's many car auction sites in and around New York City, the five boroughs, but I happen to notice that the New York City sheriff and the marshals actually have auctions that I would assume cars they've taken that were involved in a crime or somebody, it was, whatever it is. Are those? Have you heard of those auctions? Are those auctions worth attending?
Yeah, we don't have a lot of those around where I am. I would assume that those cars are mainly theft vehicles. And anything that's seized within a crime scene. I don't know how they actually categorize those titles. I know the theft one's the easy one. I see that a lot at these auctions pop up. But anything that's been taken in because of drugs or any kind of other crime or whatever, I actually don't have any expertise dealing with any of that stuff at all. But I have heard that there's some guys out there that'll go and they'll buy a lot of those cars, and you can get good deals because it's just there's some paperwork you have to deal with that. It just makes our process a lot more difficult because we're doing scale. We're doing a lot of cars a month. So any kind of hang up like that, even if we're going to save a little bit of money, we don't even want to mess with it.
How would somebody check something like that out? Is there a way to check a title, or let's say I go to one of these auctions and it's, how do I check out the title to this car? I actually, they actually have the VIN numbers. So I went to KBB and I plugged in the VIN number. It tells me what kind of car it is, but it doesn't tell me really who owned the car. And sometimes on these auctions, it'll tell you that it's actually a bank that has a lien on the car. So the bank gets paid off when the car is sold at auction. But how do you check out a car as far as title and that sort of thing, lien searches?
Yeah, so the best thing we talked about it earlier. Carfax is what I use to check all these things. They'll be able to tell you if there's a lien on the car, when there was a lien put on the car, where the lien was put on the car, where the previous owner lived, not their address, but like city and state usually. They'll be able to tell you any kind of maintenance records that were filed at someone who's locked into the Carfax system. It'll be able to tell you when the car has been transferred, how many owners it's had, and where the car's been. So we use it a lot because we don't want to buy a car that's been up north. When we check Carfax, we want to make sure we don't see New York on there. We don't see
Ice
Michigan.
and snow.
We don't see any of that. We don't want any rust down here. You can keep that up there. So we use Carfax for that.
So we'll hang on to our rust-laden vehicles up here and we'll sell them as used. Talk to me about the used car, the EV market. Is there a used car EV market?
Yeah, and it's actually gotten hammered over the last couple months. So there's a few things that have happened. Elon has kept dropping prices over the last 6 months. Price drop. Tesla has missed deliveries like the first time in a very long time. So the adoption that was supposed to happen and supposed to be crazy is not coming to fruition how a lot of these automakers thought it would. You have Ford, Mach-E's, F-150 Lightnings not selling, sitting on lots. Dealers can't get rid of them. And that's making the used car EV side on that side creator also. Then you have something else. You have Hertz, who, because the prices have been so volatile, because people have not wanted to rent these EVs because they're scared of the range. Hertz got rid of its Model 3 fleet. So that's pushing even more downward pressure, especially on the Model 3s that are coming through auction. I see Hertz cars all the time now go through a lot of these auctions. And so there's a lot of downward pressure right now happening. So much so that I wasn't even interested in anything EV. But because the prices got so cheap, I ended up buying a Tesla Model 3 for me just to try out. And we're going to end up doing some content on it. But I was not even close to buying one 6 months ago because of the prices. But now, because they've gotten so cheap and they've gotten hammered so much, I was like, you know what? I'll take a gamble and I'll buy one, throw a little bit of money at it, just so I can drive one and figure out what it's like. And if I'm going to report on the car market, just like I'm doing here with you right now, I need to understand the technology. So that's something I wasn't even close to thinking about 6 months ago. And now, because the prices have dropped so much, I'm dipping my toes in the water.
So we talked a little about interest rates. We talked about, the Fed is now, the expectation is that we're going to see an interest rate cut in September. How fast do you expect that to get to new car markets? And do you think that's going to energize? Because new car sales are dropping. There's no doubt that new car sales are dropping. Do you expect to see that pick up? And then how will that affect, your market? Obviously not your market, because a lot of people are paying cash, but the $5,000 to $15,000 used car market. Do you expect more people to go out and start buying cars again?
I would anticipate it would have almost zero effect right when they first start, because they're probably going to drop it by 25 basis points. So that's not going to do anything for buyers. What has to happen for the car market to get better, for the prices to drop, is it's all supply and demand. So you're going to have new car manufacturers on the new side. You're going to have them keep trying to pump inventory to dealers, which should put some downward pressure on the pricing. And then on the used car side, what we need is transactions. So the only way that we get more cars into the used car space is from people buying new cars, trading in their old cars. And then those cars get sent to the auction. So the used car space can't get better until the new car space gets better. The new car space can't get better until really monthly payments get better. And because people don't shop price, they shop monthly payments. So the way that monthly payments get lower is by MSRPs coming down and by interest rates coming down. Interest rates, I think, are going to be slow. So I think the thing that really fixes the car market and fixes it quickly is for manufacturers to lower MSRPs. They have not shown a willingness to do this anytime soon. So I think we're just stuck in this rock in a hard place for the foreseeable future.
During COVID, it seemed like there was everybody going out and buying a car, whether it be new or used. There weren't a lot of new cars because production had stopped. Is that, did you see your business go crazy during that time?
I mean, we sold just about everything we could get our hands on, but the problem is we didn't make any more money because we couldn't find cars. So there's this big misconception that a lot of dealers made a ton of money over that time period. Whereas, maybe our margins went up slightly. I'm talking about on the used car dealer side across the whole. Yeah, maybe we made a little bit more money per unit. But the thing about it is we were selling so many fewer cars because we just couldn't get our hands on them. There weren't any cars out there. And on the new car side, they were charging market adjustments. So they were able to make a lot more money on the new car side because they were still getting cars from the manufacturer. Yeah, they were selling less cars, but something that they had never made money on before. I mean, new car dealers don't make very much money on the new cars that they're selling. But now, I mean, over the course of the last 3 years, they were able to pump them an extra 10,000, 15,000. In some cases, we saw like $30,000 market adjustments on some of these average like F-150s. So yeah, they were making a ton more money then, but it didn't work that way on the used car side because we couldn't add this market adjustment. I mean, it's a used car, so I mean, the price is the price. Whatever the market will pay, that's all we can charge for it. And so the problem is if the market goes up on what a customer will pay for it, well, the wholesale value goes up. So it's not like we were still able to buy cars down here and then make this whole spread. It's that we were able to buy cars up here and still make that same amount of spread. It doesn't matter where it moves. It's just that we made roughly the same amount of money, but we're able to sell fewer cars.
So, Brandon, in closing, what's your best advice for someone that's going out and looking for a used vehicle?
So right now, pricing is an issue, and it's going to be all over the place. So if you know kind of what you want to find 3 or 4 dealers around your area that are selling a very similar car. You want to go check out all of them. And you want to make sure that the car is good before you're actually buying it. Make sure you get your mechanic to check it out before you purchase the car. That's if I could leave your viewers with one thing, is if you're going to buy a used car, have a mechanic first and then have them check it out before you buy it, because whether the car's a $2,500 car, like some of the stuff that I'm selling, or if it's a $25,000 car, you can buy a paperweight very quickly. And a lot of times dealers, after you buy the car, it's yours. They're hands off. So you need to know what you're getting into before you purchase it. So that if there's anything that you can take away from this, make sure you get a used vehicle checked out before you purchase it.
So it's CQA, Car Questions Answered. You can find it on YouTube. Brandon, where else can we find you other than YouTube? Social media?
Well, we have 2 channels. I don't like social media, so I'm not on it. We have it's Car Questions Answered on YouTube, and I've also got a second channel. It's called CQA Live. We do a lot of live streams where I just come out and talk about what's going on in the car market. We show a lot of auctions on both channels. So yeah, check us out there, and that's all I want to be on. So, but if you want my phone number, just ask for it, and I won't give it to you. So that's the other place.
Appreciate it, Brandon. Thank you so much. Awesome information, and hopefully our viewers got a lot of insight into purchasing a vehicle. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me on.
That's a wrap on another discussion here on Wealthion. Thank you for joining us. If you need help being financially resilient, please head over to wealthion.com and sign up for a free, no obligation portfolio review with one of our registered investment advisors. And remember to follow us on social media for the latest news and information that'll help you invest wisely. And if you could, like and subscribe to the channel, we greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you can find out when we post new videos to the channel. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, stay informed, be empowered, and may your investments flourish. And if you like this content, please watch this video next.